This is a simple video this morning of how to soak nuts so that your body can utilize all the nutrition in the nuts without going into a lot of complication that you could just look up on the internet. I'll just say that it's very important to soak your nuts and seeds before you eat them, because of the nutrients are bound and difficult for our bodies to digest and access when they're not soaked or sprouted. And the reason I say soaked or sprouted is because even raw pecans, if you buy them like this is only half of the fruit of the pecan. So you can't technically sprout the pecans, but you can take them through the process of sprouting, where the enzymes are activated, and this changes the nature of the nut so that your body can digest it properly. Then, if you like crunchy, dry nuts, you can use a dehydrator like this Excalibur or any type of dehydrator to again dry them so that they'll be crunchy and easier to store without refrigeration and such, and they'll last a long time. So they'll be just like they were before, except I find that after they're soaked, they are buttery, more buttery. There's something about the nut that just feels easier to digest as soon as you put it in your mouth and chew it up. And that's maybe my imagination, but that's the way it works with me. So there are suggested times for soaking certain nuts, but basically I just soak them all for 8 hours or so, or longer. If they are a nut or a seed that can sprout, then I go ahead and soak them and rinse. I'll soak them for 2 days or so and allow them to sprout. And when I do this, just make sure that every 12 hours or so you rinse them and put new water, or you can just soak them the first night, rinse them, and then just rinse them several times over the course of a couple of days. But what I do is I use some sea salt. You don't have to, but it keeps any bad bacteria that might want to grow while you're soaking them away. And usually about a quart, I'll put about a couple of teaspoons of sea salt in a quart. Now, when you rinse them in the end, you can actually rinse all that salt off if you don't care to have it. But if you're eating a lot of healthy foods and minimally processed foods, then you are probably going to need the extra salt anyway. So that's the way it works out for me. Okay, so I've salted them with some Himalayan sea salt. Celtic sea salt is a nice option also. And those two salts provide some nice minerals for the body, and minerals are super vital for health. And electrolytes, and they're just much more important than I ever realized. And so be aware of that. They can really change your health and the way you feel. Just a deficiency in a mineral such as iodine, which is something that if you do not eat table salt because you don't eat a lot of processed foods and things, then you're going to possibly need some iodine and other minerals. So you may want to check into that. Magnesium. And of course, you want to get as much as you can from your diet, but just sometimes that's not enough. Anyway, that was a random tangent, but here we are. We're soaking the nuts. I'll soak these all day because it's morning, and then this evening they'll be ready for me to stick into the dehydrator. If you do not have a dehydrator, you can just use your oven and turn it on its lowest temperature and let it heat. Then turn it off and open it, so that some of that heat comes out. If you want to, that is, if you want to preserve the raw nature of the nuts. Now you can just, toast them up on 350 for 20 minutes or so, or 10 minutes. Just, keep checking them and stirring them on a pan to dry them out really well. And you'll still get the nutrition, but maybe not the, I just burned my what I have. Anyway, but you won't get lost my train of thought because I was burning something. But the bottom line is you can use this. You can, if you want to maintain the raw nature, let it cool a little so that you're aiming to keep it under about 110 for exposure of the nuts. And so if you heat it to a couple hundred degrees and then let it cool off a bit, then put your nuts in there, close it, and just leave it for a whole day or till you need your oven again. And check them after that and see if they're dry enough. If they're not, do that process again. So there you go. There's some information on soaking nuts.